Initializing next life system. System ready.
What is going on, my friends, and welcome to another episode of Next Life. Today we're going to be talking about 2022 and what is in store for us in the next 5 years. IBM actually released a list of their predictions as to what they feel the future is going to be, what 22 will look like, what kind of technology will be available, and it's quite interesting. It definitely seems, after looking at this list, it definitely seems like these next 5 years will be kind of like the platform or the foundational stages for massive, like crazy, amazing changes over, I wouldn't say a 20-year period, but like these 5 years will really set that stage to really change the game, and really kind of, I think that set the stage for a whole new world that our parents definitely did not grow up in, and we're going to be essentially the trailblazers of that. So I want to share with you guys some of these powerful new, predictions. They range from advances in artificial intelligence, high-tech cameras, smart sensors, and medical devices. So let's jump into that right now. Let me just pull this up. The first one has to do with the future, basically the future of medical technology. These would be medical indicators, and I can pull this up right now. So basically, IBM predicts that in 5 years, what we say and write will be used as indicators of our mental health and well-being. They said that mental illness and diseases such as Parkinson's could be spotted with a mobile app. And basically, the artificial intelligence could calculate the words that are being said by a particular individual, store those to a cloud, and essentially analyze them later and be able to spot specific aspects that essentially highlight different areas that might be an issue, or just be able to predict if someone could have something like Parkinson's, because there are these specific patterns that you can pick up on. I guess last year a team from the University of Southern Carolina built a program where they're actually able to analyze speech patterns and then identify signs of depression. So not only Parkinson's, but more, I guess would say, things that aren't necessarily classified as quote-unquote diseases, such as depression. So that could be interesting. Personally, this image here kind of gives you an idea of maybe, just like kind of more of a basic perspective of that, where you could actually track your positive or negative comments that you said over the month's worth of time. Personally, with this type of software or technology, what I would like to see is a type of software that is able to track your semantics, what you say, and provide solutions that are geared towards your intentions or your goals. So maybe it is that you want to be more productive, or you want to be more positive, or you want to build a more intimate or solid relationship with your significant other. It would be really interesting to be able to track these specific things, like going to that last example, your significant other, really kind of like track what are the things that you're saying to your significant other. What are are you placing a lot of blame on like your friends or your significant other? Is the dialogue positive? And if it's not positive, how can we change that? What can we do to shift that? Also looking at how do you refer to yourself? When you speak, what kind of words do you use to reference yourself? Because that the words you say have a big impact on your identity and what you believe. And I would say the essentially the beliefs that underlie who it is that you are, and ultimately those beliefs are ultimately embodied within our neurology, and it's how we act and move. It determines our behavior. So be able to identify that could be super useful. And if you guys have been watching my videos, I'm into neurosemantics and NLP. So that makes it's very obvious that would be useful to me. So that's number one. Let's move to number two. Number two has to do with the being able to see broader spectrums of light. So right now it's like we can see visible light, as you can see, there's the spectrum, like they're 800 nanometers to 400 nanometers is what we can see. But according to IBM, there will be powerful tiny cameras combined with fast processing smarts of AI that will be able allow us to see microwave, millimeter wave, and infrared images through devices that are small enough to fit in your pocket or just slip over your shades. And basically, it's kind of a similar, I guess you could think of it as like, you know, those airport security scanners that check your luggage. We could have something like that, except, you know, on us, and maybe like the size of a phone. So this could be really interesting. Also with like driving, it kind of makes sense that it's like if we had some of these like on like our front windshield, and we could basically see through fog, or basically use the infrared to see cars or different like animals at night. I think that could be very useful as well. What I'd like to see for this is devices that could, you know, I'm a little bit woo, or like I'm interested in more of like the non-physical aspects. So I would like to see devices that could track or visualize auric fields, you know, like the energy that emanates off of us. I'd like to see if there's ways we could do that. Also, I used to be very much into energy healing, such as Reiki, another one called reconnective healing, where you actually emit, part of the healing process is emitting subtle energies, and actually working with the subtle energies of the, you know, individual that you're working on. There actually have been studies done at the University of Arizona's Human Energies Institute, where they use EEG and EKG systems to actually be able to track and analyze different forms of energy, utilizing like they were literally doing tests. Research on energy healers, and they were able to see significant changes in the energy field. So it would be interesting to be able to do that, like have apps or technology that like like someone like me that isn't a scientist, that, you know, doesn't have like millions and millions of dollars, could use to be able to perceive different forms of energy. So that's number 2. Number 3 has to do with essentially how the world is becoming much more connected. So basically, we're going to be having much more advanced models and visualizations of Earth's data. IBM basically predicts that we'll have these macroscopic systems. A macroscopic system is essentially the reverse of a microscope, where so basically instead of like visualizing detailed imagery and data of something very small, we get this very complex data of Earth, and we get to be able to analyze and see how it all works together. And they said that this data would come from satellites, smart sensors, weather stations, and essentially like smartphones, or even like our smart furniture, such as like smart fridge or smart TVs or this and that. So basically, we'd have like a crapload of more information to work with from all over the place. And they say we would even be able to understand the social and political conditions of a country as well. So that would be interesting. Personally, what I would like to see with this type of technology is that I would really like to see to be able to track essentially the data of I guess I would say citizens see the raw data and see how it's like how we're using our energy, how Earth functions as a whole, and be able to take in that raw data and use it to be proactive. It's like if there's problems, be able to visualize these problems, seeing the raw data, in a digestible form. So I guess what I'm saying is software that we could use to essentially digest this raw data and utilize it to get, like, instead of like getting all this information through the media, getting it directly from the source, and then be able to use that data to actually take action in ways that we could take action. So for instance, if there's like social and political issues, see those social and political issues through the data rather than through a secondhand source. I think that would be really interesting. Obviously, some problems that come up with this would be mass data surveillance. You have all this smart technology in your home. Who's really taking in that information, and how is it being used? Those would be my questions. So that's number 3. Let's move to number 4 here. Number 4 is a medical device. You probably heard of this, the RFID chip. Essentially, this chip would be it would basically be a nanotechnology that would be like a health detective. It would trace invisible clues in your body fluids and let you know immediately if you have a reason to go to the doctor. In past 2022, we'll have nanorobots that will actually be able to go into our bodies, like they'll be like the size of cells, go into our bodies and actually fight diseases such as, they'll be able to target cancer cells if we still are dealing with cancer. What I would like to see is that, like, instead of such focusing on disease with these particular chips, I'd like to have chips that that would actually monitor things for preventative measures. So be able to monitor hydration levels in your body, be able to have a very accurate depiction of your nutrient levels, so that you can avoid disease altogether, and just know that, like, okay, if I'm not. It's like, this is telling me straight up how I need to be treating my body, and if I'm not following, if I'm not taking in this information and using it wisely, then, like, this is my fault and I should be at the doctor right now. So I think that could be useful. Some downfalls to this, it could be like, becoming dependent on medicine. Obviously, like, we have pharmaceutical industries that don't always have the best intentions and utilize their technology or their research for profit rather than for the good of all. So I can imagine having this type of information, like a greater amount of information about people's bodies could it could lead to some manipulative tactics. I'm sure there's many ways of going at that. So that'll be interesting to see as well. So that is number 4. Let's get to the last one, number 5, which is actually kind of similar to number 3 with the advanced models and visualizations of Earth data. Basically, these would be like smart sensors which will detect environmental pollution faster than we ever could. IBM predicts that basically a mix of smart hardware and AI could essentially detect environmental pollution almost instantly. So basically, they could fit drones with this technology that could essentially detect pollutants in real time, and basically would also be able to grab little samples and bring them back to the lab as well. One example of this is methane leaks. It's very hard to see if there is a methane leak because it's invisible to the eye, and so it's also one of the largest contributors of global warming after carbon dioxide. So that could be very useful for that as well. Personally, what I would like to see with this type of technology is, I think it would be cool if we could use this to be able to track what I guess I would say what nations are emitting the most pollution, and be able to hold them accountable. And like, I guess I would say, even taking that a step further, by looking at what cities are producing the most pollution, what towns are producing the most pollution, what neighborhoods are producing the most neighborhood, and then create action steps to not only hold them accountable but to actually create change, and maybe have standards that you have to, like, even on an individual, like, home by home level, you have to like, essentially there are guidelines that you have to follow, and there's waste procedures that can be monitored, so that us as a whole, as not only a nation but as a world, can move forward in a positive way, and gain control over the issues that we have yet to solve. So anyways, those are the five predictions that IBM has in the future. Definitely some interesting stuff, and as you can see, definitely setting us up for some really crazy shit come post 2022. But I'm curious to see which of these will come true. I have a feeling that all of them will. I bet, in my opinion, I think more. We'll see more than this, but you never know. So anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed that. I will be back on tomorrow with some more, but I hope you all having a wonderful rest of your night, and I will talk to y'all tomorrow. Peace and love.